Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITA Pod. I'm Danny Vega, joined by a lovely guest today, Leah Bonnema. Welcome to the show.
Oh, I am thrilled to be here. You know I am because I chased you down.
You really did. Now, we've been talking for a while because I always thought you would be a great fit for the pod because you have kind of a similar pod called Were You Raised by Wolves?
Yes, I'm the co-host of Were You Raised by Wolves with Nicholas Layton.
But you're not here to promote that today. You're here to promote, I didn't even know you were involved in this sort of thing because you're a very funny stand-up. I've known you forever. I've known you for like 10 years. We did a show in Connecticut that one time. Do you remember?
I literally don't remember anything before 2 years ago.
You don't remember that? We drove up to Connecticut. It was in a bar. It was with a guy named maybe his name was Dan. He was kind of one of those like tall, like quiet guys. And you had
very tall?
Very tall.
Yes. You know how you have I remember us, but I have no idea where it was, when it was.
It was, I don't really remember either, but you did great. And that's when I first met you, and you were always very sweet. So
I feel like we were in a back room, yes?
I don't know.
Like a side room? So yeah, that's what I remember. I remember walking.
Oh, comedy, the things that stick with you. And they had French fries with ranch there. It came with the ranch by default, just the most random shit. You remember?
I actually have somehow I love ketchup, but now I'll dip a fry in other things.
You're getting kinkier with time.
I'm getting wild. I'll do like a garlic aioli. I'll get wild.
Ooh, we love an aioli. There's a classic pod story, actually, where I took the old co-host, Sarah, to a place, and I was like, you got to try this aioli. She's like, that's literally mayo. And I was like, okay.
Well, it's like mayo with garlic.
No, it was just mayo. I was just eating mayo like a pig boy, and I thought it was fancy. But speaking of kinky, you wrote a comedic Christmas romance novel, but then you said not dirty. So that's what you're here to promote.
That is what I'm here to promote. It's called The Holiday Breakdown. I wrote it during the pandemic, actually, because I was living in New York. I was writing a horror movie, and I was like, it's already too dark out there. I need something that makes me happy. I love Christmas movies. So in my mind, I was going to write because I love reading bodice ripper books, which is, they call them bodice rippers because the ladies on the cover are coming out of their bodices because they're breathing so heavy from the lust. But as I started writing, I realized that I could only write this is like a Christmas rom-com, maybe a little kiss. But it's a comedy. It's not a bodice ripper. It's just a romance.
So there's no sex in the book.
There is no intercoursing.
Okay, got it. And that is how I usually refer to it as well. Would you like to do some intercoursing? Okay, well, that's super cute. I mean, so it gets you it kind of tugs your heart and, but it's not like an erotic novel.
It's not an erotic novel. It's like a holiday romp, like a fun, it's got all the holiday stuff, cookies, cookie baking montages, a kind stranger.
That's super cute. The holiday breakdown.
A random stranger who shows up and is super hot.
Oh, we love when that happens.
Yes.
And so the audiobook is coming out.
Comes out. My audiobook, I just recorded it.
You recorded it, so you say it.
I'm the narrator. Every year I think I got to do it, and then every year I don't do it. And this year I thought I'm doing it. Well,
you guys check it out. I mean, if that's your speed, I personally have never read a romance novel, but of all the people I would trust to write a funny one, I can't think of someone better than you, frankly.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
We're here to promote Leah's novel. I found some great juicy situations. So now, I mean, you might have to deal with this stuff now because this is your first one, right?
This is my first one. I've always been an avid reader. This is my first, but I mean, I loved writing this book.
And you've been doing stand-up forever. You have a million stand-up credits. Have you written any other books?
I wrote a short story once that I actually ended up getting produced into a pilot. But coincidentally, the short story that I wrote, my lead character in The Holiday Breakdown is a detective novelist. The story that she's writing is the short story that I wrote a long time ago. So I eventually could imagine I would love to have a detective series. I want to make this a trilogy, this Christmas story, and then branch off into because who doesn't have time to lock themselves in the house? I'm going to need another pandemic, Danny.
Is that what you do? So you lock yourself in to get the writing done?
Yeah, that's what I do.
I have to do weird stuff like that too. Anyway, crazy artistic people, here we are, folks. And we've got two little juicy situations, both about romance novel writers. Which
how incredible.
I'm going to read the first one. Our second story, though, AITA for reading romance novels despite it making my boyfriend uncomfortable. But first, folks, AITA for not telling my partner that I self-publish romance novels of questionable quality. Partner, M35, and I, F32, have been together for 7 months. It started casual and got domestic quickly in a good way. I'm a part-time teacher. He's an admin, government job. But he studied art history. He knows I write on the side and would love to publish my passion project, but it's not commercial. It's like weird, experimental literary fiction. He's supportive. We talk a lot about art, his photography and oils, my novel. Back in college, I'd write other stuff as a quick outlet. It usually ended up as some tropey romance, mafia, pirate romance. You get it. No erotica. I didn't care. Had fun. Finished them. Forgot about them. One day I realized the published books in the genre weren't honestly that different from mine. So I gave it a shot. Minimal effort, self-published, ebook, cheap. It was a bit of extra money. Kept writing them. Got a readership. 4 to 5 books in, I was making a decent side income. The only teaching job I got was part-time. Had to stay in the area for a sick relative in the districts where you have no money. You know, teachers pay. So this extra income paid for living alone. I developed a system. Word vomit novels during the holidays. 7 to 10 days per book. Publish every 2 to 3 months. They're solid, but, you know, just kind of blah. Kind of formulaic, writing to the market. People enjoy them though. By now, my income from books is a stable 1.5 times my salary. Whoa.
Wow. Congratulations.
Right? Not many people in my life know. I sometimes tell people I just freelance if they ask about my spending. Partner knows I self-publish, but he's got this thing about biased consumption and separating art from personal life, so he never wanted to read any of it. My last mass writing session was before we met, and I do most of my marketing pub stuff during the week when he's at work, so he never really saw them. I guess he assumed I was publishing artsy literary fiction like he knows I write. Recently, I had a week off, and I was in the middle of a launch, so he saw me working, totally lost in it. Not in an angry way. Rambling, upset, tearing up. How could I lie to him like that? Why would I write this garbage? What an embarrassment. How will we look in front of his art friends? I'm a literary fraud, betray my convictions and my good art. He knows I can do better. It's dishonest and inauthentic. I'm contributing to the destruction of art. How can he ever trust me again, etc.? That shit hurt. So I defended myself, which included some mean stuff. At least I'm making money with it. He has no idea what it's like, all coddled in his cushy desk job. Now, everything's weird. I get that it was like a lie by omission, that I never clarified the genre. It was just never that big of a deal. We never discussed our finances. It never came up. Maybe I subconsciously tried to avoid that topic because I knew intuitively what would happen, but it's a big part of my life and we talk a lot about our art. So I guess it is kind of weird I never said. Am I the asshole?
Layers of feelings. The first one is I want to say congratulations. I think it's a really big deal to be putting out stuff, have developed a readership, to be making money. That's huge.
It's huge. I mean, it's commercial art. She doesn't seem to have any misgivings about what it is. She knows what it is. She does it, and she's making 1.5 times her income.
I would also like to say that a lot of times when things are quote unquote for women, by women, that, people immediately are like, that's trash. And you're like, oh, it's trash because somebody enjoys it. That's mostly women. That sort of already has a pretty big judgment in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's tough to wrestle with. So look, let's just go to our kind of common art here, which is stand-up. Have you ever seen a stand-up that you liked as a person, but then you see their act and you're like, oh my God, their act is horrible. They're a hack.
I am this really annoying kind of person where I find things I like about everybody if I like them as a person. If you're a nice person and your act needs a little work, I'm just going to be like, oh, they're working on themselves, but they're a great person.
Right, but wouldn't it kind of make you unattracted to them even if you like them as a friend?
Well, why am I trying to bang my friend? You know what I mean?
Oh my God, you're being so difficult.
I'm not being difficult. I just disagree with you.
I don't think you disagree. You're telling me that you've never gone and seen a stand-up and been like, I hate their act. I don't like their act. You've never seen someone with a shitty act and been like, ugh, it's hard to respect you.
Are they already my friend?
No, just anybody.
Okay, well, you said they were already my friend.
Oh, sorry. Well, imagine a different situation where you just see an act that you don't like. That doesn't mean the person is a bad person. It means they have a shitty act.
Yes, I've seen comics that have shitty acts.
Wouldn't that turn you off to them as a person?
Not if they were nice to me.
Really?
Yeah, unless what they're doing is abusive to people. But if they just have a shitty act and they're a nice person to me, then I'm just they're working on their shit. They'll figure it out.
Okay. Maybe I'm just a worse person than you.
I mean, that's probably true.
I've like, there's been people where I don't know, like I know I'm not like you. I'm just not actually. I guess we do disagree. I wanted to be friends with this person. I enjoyed them as a person, and then I was like, it's going to be so complicated because I really, really thought their act was just beyond bad, and I was like, I can't even look at them the same.
Oh, unless somebody is like really insulting to groups of people, I just assume, comedy takes a long time. It takes a long time to find yourself, and you got to put in the reps. And I always think, oh, they're in their process.
I had that thought too, but I was just like, it's going to be a pain point of how real I can be with this person, and just it's going to create all kinds of problems that I think they're terrible. Their stand-up is terrible.
So you don't want to be friends with them?
I'm so friends with them. Like, if I saw them, I would be like, hi, so good to see you. I was like, I just don't want to like get any closer to them. I'm not going to initiate.
Okay. I genuinely don't think that way. So there is a divide.
I mean, I can't really defend this guy on any other basis. That was all I had. Is that honestly, if you're invested in an art, I look, I'll say this. That's great that this doesn't happen for you. But I think for other people, I don't think I am at least that rare where, yeah, if people are doing the same thing as you and you care about it, and somebody's doing a version of it that you hate, like that it could give you the ick. I don't think that gives him a right to say anything he said, but I just think there is part of that.
Well, it's different if I'm like having the intercoursing with somebody and I see what they do and they're not great at it. I feel like that would be, but she's not great at it. He doesn't like the genre. You see? Well, no,
wait. Let's talk more about what you just said, though. Sounds like you weren't that far from me. So you're intercoursing with someone.
If I'm intercoursing with somebody and I see what they do and they're not good at it, that's totally different than a friend. I haven't had that happen, so I can't speak to it.
It hasn't happened.
No.
You're like, I only fuck people who are really good at what they do, bro.
I mean, that is.
I ain't in that bind, homie.
I don't care what they do. You could be really good at whatever it is you're good at. I like people that are passionate about what they do. Mm-hmm. You'd be great at woodwork. And I'd be like, yeah, he's a great woodworker. You know what I mean?
I respect woodworkers. That's a wild example for me because I love a woodworker.
Everybody in my family is a woodworker.
Really?
I got a lot of woodworkers on all the way back.
See, we got none of that in my family. That handy shit, nobody's handy. So I'm always, every time I see a guy doing woodwork, I'm like, that's a real man right there, bro.
Oh yeah, I come from a line of woodworkers.
Interesting. I mean, writing a book is a form of woodwork, really, if you break it down.
Just chipping away. But I'm saying I see what you mean. If I was having intercourse with this person, but they were not good at what they do, would I feel differently? Quite possibly. But I feel like what's happening is this guy is judging the genre in which she's writing in.
Yeah.
He's still the same writer. It's just a different genre. I think it's more the issue is that she kept it from him.
Exactly. I think that's the only other place I can defend him is that surprises. It is my sort of, I think it's reasonable to give people some grace when you hit them with a big surprise.
Some grace in them, but they shouldn't say things like embarrassing. I also can imagine, like if somebody said to me, I've been doing this on the side, I kind of keep it to myself, I don't tell anybody, I'd be like, okay.
Well, I think this is going to hit him in the ego. And I think it's not okay what he said, and he's going to have to come back from it. He was having an impulsive reaction. I think what he said sucked. I think he needs to apologize for all of it. But like, if right now you were like, yo, Danny, I don't know, I've been fucking your dad, I'd be like, what? Leah? Like, I'm allowed.
That was the reveal at the end of this, Danny? I've been fucking your dad.
I would take a shot at you, right? I would be like, you fucking, I would say some horrible things to you. I think I would get a pass because it's like, yeah, it's a big surprise. Now, you wouldn't necessarily have done anything wrong. I don't know, maybe my dad pursues you. Maybe he likes your novel. I don't fucking know. But like, I'm willing to give something of a pass to him. He needs to apologize. But like, this was a big shock. This is a lot to lay on someone.
I don't think it is.
Huh?
This is how I feel. You're in a relationship with somebody. Okay. So I've been in a relationship for a long time. Some words you cannot unsay. One of them is you embarrass me.
Ooh.
Somebody said you embarrass me. I would not ever fuck them again. And this is what he's saying to her. It's embarrassing.
What if they said you embarrassed me, like in a specific context? Is that legal?
No, I wouldn't. I'm very sensitive. If somebody talked to me that way, I would not be able to get up. Like, That is why when we argue, we say things like, I feel like you hid this from me. You know, we don't say you're embarrassing me in front of my friends. You know what I mean? It's like, well, be a fucking man and fucking deal with it, dude. Get some therapy. Why should you be embarrassed? Because I'm making a living writing? I'd be like, suck my dick. I'm also a very hot-headed Italian woman with a Scorpio. I just got my natal chart read. I didn't even know what time I was born, but I'm a Scorpio and I have a Scorpio rising sign.
I'm scared of you. I don't know what you need me to say to that.
I just don't like people to, I just feel like I understand feeling like you were hoodwinked, like somebody didn't tell you something, but there's a way to communicate about it. And this is not it. This is actually the most wrong.
Yeah, I guess, what did she really conceal? She concealed that she didn't clarify the genre. I mean, she took some shots at him too.
After he took shots.
So she returned fire.
My deal is you take shots, it's an open warfare. You take a shot, I can do anything. You started it.
But did he start it? Because she kind of did pull the rug. It was kind of a rug pull. It's like, actually, the reality that you think we're in is not the reality that we're in. I have a substantial, like, how much was revealed? Let's figure that out.
The only thing that she didn't talk about was the genre.
You know what? Actually, wait. I can mount more charges. Now I'm leaning more to her side. Partner knows I self-publish books.
Yes.
But he's got some kind of thing about biased consumption. I don't know what the fuck that means. Separating art from personal life. So he never wanted to read any of it. So this wasn't really a surprise or a concealment. This was that he didn't want to know. Fuck this guy. I think that's it. I think I'm out of excuses for him.
Thank you. He sounds like a real D-bag.
He didn't want to know. Then he finally finds out and he fires all kinds of shots at her. And it's mad shitty. He calls it garbage. And yeah, she fires some shots back, but he's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
Yeah,
do you remember the movie? I feel bad calling anybody an asshole. I'm sure he, maybe likes dogs or something. You remember the movie Misery?
That doesn't make you not a Hitler had a dog, famously. What are you, crazy?
No, you're right. I can take it back. I just, I never use such strong language, Danny. Kidding. I remember the movie Misery with Kathy Bates and James Caan. Yeah. And he's like a writer and he writes romance novels or like about this one woman. I don't remember exactly what the books are. And she loves this character. She's like, she's into this. And he's like, I want to write real books. So he goes off the road, breaks, he's in a car crash. She finds him, takes him home. She finds out that he's going to kill off his main character, which is she loves. And because he wants to write quote unquote real books. So
Right.
If you haven't seen it, it's been a long time. So I'm spoiling it. She breaks his feet, right? She makes him stay at home and so I feel like this is the tension between what people are calling trashy books, the Kathy Bates character who's like, you will write these fucking books. They mean a lot to me. And the guy who's like, I need to make real art. And she's like, this is real art for me. I'll break your fucking legs.
That's where this goes. No, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I mean, for me, I think I would not necessarily be into this kind of writer. I mean, I think she's saying everything about it. She's like, it's basically a template, So I am into creative people. If I was like into a girl and one girl describes her writing as, these little templates or like super formulaic romance novels versus the other girl wrote, War and Peace. Yeah, I'm probably going to go War and Peace girl.
The thing is that legal? Our letter writer could be writing War and Peace. She just has to do these other things while she's writing War and Peace.
Yeah, you're right. She's just monetizing one aspect of her craft. Yeah. Really. Because she does write other stuff.
It's like, sorry, I got to pay my bills.
I'm hot for OP. You've sold me on her. I kind of love her. Fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy.
And she's like very nurturing. She's like teaching kids and like she's always kind of going.
Teaching children. She's writing books. I bet they're great. I bet they're fun.
So, go ahead.
Also, like, she's on a schedule. I also think, like, I do morning pages where you just write every morning. Like, she's coning her, even if you're not writing exactly what you want to be writing, you're writing every day. How great. How great for her that she keeps up this schedule.
No, and she writes during the holidays. I mean, she's grinding.
She's grinding. Also, how well does he know her if she's grinding during the holidays and he just doesn't want to pay attention to the genre? I mean, come on.
I actually have a thing about biased consumption.
Honestly, can you imagine saying that out loud?
That's horrible. And really what that really is to say is like, I don't care about what you do. And so I really think this is an ego hit. I think it's an ego hit. I think all the things he's saying he's really devastated by the fact that she's a successful writer. It hit him in the ego.
And he's making her shit totally about him. Like, you don't have to like how she's making her money. You just don't disrespect it.
You're a literary fraud and you're betraying convictions.
Ooh! I'd be like, okay, step up off that high horse, baby doll.
It's dishonest and inauthentic. I'm contributing to the destruction of art. I think that's pretty. I think the fact that if you're writing something that people read, that's already like reading now. People
Also,
can't read.
She's writing things that make people happy. Can we make people happy and just like, it's also so condescending to be like, you're contributing to the downfall of art. Okay, Picasso, let me know what you're up to.
Yeah, seriously.
This
Okay.
one really just girded my loins.
I don't know that phrase. I'm not a writer, but I do think, what does that mean?
I think that I'm using, when you say gird your loins, you're like, you know, ugh. That people can't see me doing that.
Got your panties in a twist.
No, you're bracing.
Okay.
It grinds my gears. That's
there we go. Convert that to American for me. AITA for not telling my partner that I self-published romance novels of questionable quality. Try as I might, I don't think I could really defend a single thing about this guy. I think we're both agreeing it is not the asshole, and he is.
He's the asshole, yeah.
Guys, buy Leah's book, The Holiday Breakdown. It's great. It's great. It's not a commodity or a template, unlike this author's books, which is okay. We're not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's fresh. It's spicy. Like, it's got that Bonnema flavor, folks.
It might be a little bit templatey because I make fun of the templates of Christmas movies. You're
subverting. You're in a dialogue about the nature of the form. It's beautiful. It's art, guys. It's on, is it on Audible?
We'll be on Audible on November 1st.
Here we go. All right, Leah, take us out. We're doing one more about romance novels.
So now I'm going to gird my loins. I'll use it more appropriately, which is I'm bracing myself for a stressful situation.
Here we go.
AITA for reading romance novels despite it making my boyfriend uncomfortable. I, 29-year-old female, am a huge lover of romance novels. Doesn't matter how bad or, quote, trashy they are fun to just veg out as they require very little focus. I do enjoy more nuanced books too, but they require more focus, so I don't always have the energy for that. I've currently been binging all of the Susan Tremblay's book, 10 out of 10, would recommend if you like sci-fi fantasy romance novels. My boyfriend, 30s male, has never liked me reading these kind of books for our 2 years of dating as they make him, quote, uncomfortable. So I stopped reading them around him. I figure, well, not every book in this genre is pornographic. A fair few are, so that was likely why he was uncomfortable, so I didn't push it further. We are discussing moving in together, and he has told me he doesn't want my books on the bookshelves, as it's embarrassing to have them out and open like that. I told him if he'd prefer, I'll keep them on a bookshelf that isn't in the living room of the house where guests could see it. But no, turns out he doesn't want them on the bookshelf at all. I ended up asking him WTF his issue was and told him they were harmless. He told me I make him feel uncomfortable by enjoying these kinds of books as they seem low intelligence, and that I also make him feel, quote, less, like he's not enough. I told him that he was, of course, enough, and I pointed out to him how watching porn doesn't mean I am not enough for him, does it? But he refuses to see the similarity. I always figured it was harmless to read these kind of books. I don't get why it makes him so uncomfortable. Maybe I'm the asshole for still reading them despite knowing how he feels this way.
Yeah, it's wild to me that this is so embarrassing for men who will just openly say they watch porn. I think porn is obviously a lot worse and trashier. And by the way, I don't watch porn. Shout out, quit over a year ago. Yeah, I kind of am like, bro, like, she's reading. I don't know. I'm just kind of impressed with anybody who reads because there's literally so much stimulation surrounding us constantly to actually sit down and read a book. I'm like, that's hot. Look at her. She's a reader.
I have a partner, right? He has things that I think are like, he likes the little Mattel trucks.
Hot Wheels?
Yeah, like Hot Wheels. As an adult man. I'm not a Hot Wheel person. He loves them. He has them out. He loves them. So I love them. How hard is that? Why are we putting down our partner's things?
You're definitely the protagonist of this episode. But yeah, that's nice that you're like that.
I just don't. I would never, if someone's like, you can't put your books out, it's for something you enjoy. it makes me, I don't understand why these people are making things about them. It's not about you. Why are men making this about them?
I'm not embarrassed by romance novels, but I am embarrassed by certain things. I don't find anybody who's reading, I already find that a very hard thing to judge someone for. I'm like, they're fucking reading. They could be reading a book that I think is actively evil. I'd be like, well, they're researching probably. Like I'd find a reason for it.
You know, I feel like every time I read these books, there's always a word I don't know. I even have a joke about it because I actually got made fun of by a male comic for reading one of these books in the green room. And he's like, oh, I always want to learn stuff. And I was like, oh, I just learned something because there was a word I didn't know and I looked it up. And then I told him what the word was and he told me it didn't mean what I thought it meant. And I was like, bro, I just looked it up.
What's the word?
Defenestration.
Defenestrate. To throw someone out a window.
Yes.
To throw someone out a window. Thank you.
I didn't know that word until I read it in a romance novel.
Yeah, I know that word because that's my favorite kind of porn. That's why I stopped watching. It was getting weird.
I just feel like people should support the things that it's not hurting anybody. It's how she relaxes. These books I read a lot of these books. They're very relaxing because they're so easy. They have a happy ending. Nothing horrible happens. You shut out the outside world.
You know what? I think I'm realizing it's a split. Some things are unattractive or not attractive, and everybody has a right to those things. I'm not going to be attracted probably to a girl with Funko Pops. That's not going to attract me to her. And there's plenty of women probably listening right now. They're like, I'm not going to be attracted to a guy who rides around the stupid fucking one wheel like an asshole. And that's her right. But I think what we're agreeing on really is that when you like someone, you can't come in and be like, oh, how are you going to like Hot Wheels, asshole? Oh, you're into romance novels? That's fucking stupid. Like, you can't yuck their yums if you're in it, if you like them. Like, you gotta cool it.
I agree 100%. Unless it's like hurting somebody or being mean, which these aren't.
They're harmless. She's got a couple romance novels. Embarrassing is coming up. I think, first of all, I just think it's not valid. I don't think it's something to be embarrassed about. It's reading, goddammit.
I think that's a great point. You're reading. You're sounding out words all by yourself. Also, I just don't like it when one partner says to the other partner, you're embarrassing. Because that is judgmental. It's pushing somebody. It's putting somebody down.
I'm struggling with that a little, though. I'm struggling with that, Leah. I am. Because...
Why are you struggling with that?
Well, I think because it's honest. It seems like a legal thing to say. In other words, if I'm in a relationship and I say, you know, when you told everybody that, you know, you like romance novels, I felt embarrassed.
I couldn't take it if somebody said that to me. I'd be like, hey, it's not about you. I'm my own person.
Well, I think that's...
You would be so embarrassed is so pussy. You're embarrassed because I read romance novels?
You're saying you don't like that statement, and that's what I'm struggling with, because I'm like, I feel like that is a legal statement in terms of like, I felt hurt when you said X. I felt embarrassed. Why can't I feel embarrassed? I have a right to feel embarrassed.
You have a right, and then I have a right to be like, well, if I embarrass you, I'm happy to move out.
I know,
embarrassing means that I'm how less than, or I should be ashamed of how I behaved. The fact that you're embarrassed about something that I do that has nothing to do with you, like, have some boundaries.
Okay, so embarrassment.
It's shaming. It's very shaming. Imagine I was embarrassed by something that you did in your own life, and I said to you, "That's embarrassing." And I'm somebody, and we had an intimate relationship. It's so shaming.
It's bothering me because you feel embarrassed. I mean, I guess the other one is that I've heard too that caused me issues is I feel you're being condescending, because I'm like, okay, I get it. That's valid. But then it's also kind of just an attack. Like, I feel condescended to. And it's like, okay, but you're actually not saying that's not a feeling. So you're making me think that embarrassment, condescension, they seem like feelings, but they're really maybe not. Right? Because you're putting it on the other person. That's the whole... Imagine that we were as close as we were, right? And you said, I felt embarrassed. I'd be like, girl, what are you talking about? I'm like your acquaintance. How could you even feel embarrassed by me? So there is something going on where, and even suggesting that you could be embarrassed by someone that you identify with how they present, right? Because it would be crazy if you said that to me. I'd be like, what are you talking about? How could you be embarrassed by me? We're not associated.
Yes, I agree with that. We would have to have a closer relationship.
Right? You can't even be embarrassed by someone coherently unless you're close with them. So maybe embarrassment isn't really a feeling. Maybe there's something about that. It's just
both of these men use that word. both of these men.
Right.
Which is why I think in both cases, it's shaming. They're like, don't be who you are publicly. I don't want people to know.
When we say we're embarrassed, what are we saying? Because there is a feeling there. Maybe that's just it, is that it's not a feeling. Because what's the feeling?
Embarrassed is definitely a feeling because I embarrass myself on the regular.
Okay.
But I embarrass myself.
Yeah. What's the feeling?
I think the adult, after tons of therapy, I don't take on other people's stuff. If they do something that I'm not into, I'll be like, I didn't do it. They're an adult. They make their choices. I make my choices. You don't want to read romance novels? Don't read them.
I felt embarrassed by you as saying you did something shameful.
Yes.
Just like I felt condescended to as saying you were talking down. And so it's like a trick. It's like an I feel statement, but it's actually, if you take a second with it, you're like, it's actually a veiled accusation. Whereas saying I felt uncomfortable when that feels a lot cleaner.
Our letter writer already said, I'll put my books in the bedroom. I'll hide them from your friends.
I thought that was more than reasonable.
More than reasonable. My dad reads, he has his degree in theoretical math. So he has math books everywhere. And then we have a lot of religious books, where religion and science and quantum physics, specifically quantum physics, overlap. And then my mother is also very intelligent. You know what I mean? She has all of these great art books, but then she also loves her cheesy bodice rippers. So in between, all these quantum physics books are these bodice rippers. Nobody's embarrassed. Nobody's being hide that. We like all of these things. We have to like all of who somebody is. We don't change people unless they don't go to the doctor's appointments. And then I think as a woman living with a man, after a while, you have to be like, bro, you got to go to a doctor.
You got to go, bro. AITA, no, I think we're lined up here and I wanted to just understand this a little better, but I think you're right. It's a nasty thing to say. It's a nasty thing to say to someone that I feel embarrassed by you.
Isn't it nasty? Thank you. Because it really feels nasty. I can't think of much of more of a hurtful thing.
It hurts. It hurts. It's just like, gosh, damn. I think that's what I was kind of talking about when I was talking about the comedian. I was like, I was like, I can't be associated with this person. That's how I felt. But I didn't tell him that. I was just like, we can't be friends.
Well, I'm glad you didn't tell him.
No.
I think there's a point where you can be like, it doesn't have anything to do with me, their comedy journey.
I guess sometimes when I see a comedian that's really bad, I'm like, you ain't got no friends though? You ain't got nobody who's going to be real with you and be like, what are you doing? Stop saying that. I hope you would tell me if I was ripping off a joke or saying something extremely hack, I feel
like isn't that what audiences are?
Well, haven't you known someone who's like, they were wrong? Isn't that what audiences are?
No, those people are crazy when they're like, I put up the my favorite people put up the murder tape I just killed, and you're like, were we watching the same set? I don't know. I mean, now that I know, if you were like, hey, I would want to know if somebody has this joke, I would tell you.
Oh my God, I would want to know.
But a lot of people just think the same things. That's just how life works.
Well,
if it's your version of it, it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, if I'm like, oh, I love wearing flip-flops, it's like, okay, well, a lot of people like wearing flip-flops. I mean, come on. It's an easy shoe to put on.
Come on. It's you slip it in, you slip it out.
Thank you. That's the bit. How the fuck do you know my bit? Leah, this has been really fun. Thank you for the back and forth. This was a blast. Guys, the holiday breakdown. Listen to it. Read it. Leah, anything else?
Thank you so much for having me. And to both our letter writers, I think you're terrific. And I think you should like what you like. And congratulations on making a living. And I wish they paid teachers more. And we would love to support your books. I'll read your books.
Amen.
And what I would do if I was the second letter writer is I'd take my books out and I'd put them on the main shelf. I'd say, take me as I am or don't take me at all.
Amen. And you know what? I think it's cool that your guy has Hot Wheels.
I do too. It's a fun aspect of him. It doesn't go with the rest of him. It's just and they're right out in the living room.
They're right out there.
On top of the
Lord of the Rings shit.
Yeah, they're right next to each other. Both of our things where we're like, are we adults, dude?
Spencer Gift's ass house over here. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.